What is up, guys? Rick Cacus here, and today we are going to be going over not the best, but the worst weapon in Destiny. This is part of my ongoing Worst Things series. Tomorrow we're going to be doing the worst class. Spoiler alert, it's the Hunter. I'm just kidding. It's the Warlock. Anyways, moving on, we are going to again be discussing the worst weapon in Destiny. Now, the important part about this is, what is the criteria? Right? What is the criteria? Because I could easily go out, maybe, and go and get a white weapon or a green weapon, like a hand cannon that has terrible range and 3 rounds in a magazine, and show it to you guys and be like, look at how bad this gun is. And you guys would be like, yep, that's a pretty bad gun, but no one is using white and green weapons. Right? You get rid of those weapons very quickly when you level up within Destiny. And so I think those shouldn't be contenders for worst weapons. The worst weapon should factor in how hard it is to get. So if it's an exotic, perhaps, you're going to have to go and do, for example, a Nightfall or a raid in order to get this weapon, and the weapon you end up with is terrible. And that, of course, is going to contribute for it being a terrible weapon, as is if it's a legendary weapon, harder to get, and of course that contributes to how bad it is. Now, I've had a history of saying things are bad and rustling jimmies. I once said that the Fabian strategy way back in the day when it first came out was crap, and I got thousands of downvotes. Let me get this straight, you guys. The Fabian strategy originally had a perk that did literally nothing. The perk it has now is different. Bungie had to buff the gun because the exotic perk did, let me reiterate, literally nothing. And people were still upset that I said this weapon, an exotic, so you're giving up your exotic slot, with a perk that did literally nothing. I said it wasn't very good. People got upset by that, so I'm not expecting a great reaction from today's video, but oh well. We're doing it for the memes. Anyways, guys, if you do disagree with me and love this weapon, more power to you. Go ahead and do your thing. But the weapon, I think that is the worst weapon in Destiny, is a raid weapon. And more recently, an exotic raid weapon. It is my super hated gun. I've said it a couple of times. The Anguish of Driston. Now, I'm going to explain point by point why this gun is so bad. So, if you are part of the apparently huge Anguish of Driston fan club, wait till you type out your comment about how dumb I am till after I've explained why I think it's terrible. So, the Anguish of Driston. Again, why is it so bad? Why am I claiming that it's the worst weapon in Destiny? Well, firstly, again, it's a raid weapon. And more recently, an exotic raid weapon. So it is hard, in a sense, to get. Doing a raid is something not everyone can do. And quite frankly, if you are doing a raid for the first time and you do King's Fall, which isn't the easiest raid, to be honest, like Crota's End is a lot easier, and you end up with the Anguish, that just sucks. I feel so sorry for those people because it is certainly not worth the effort you put in. The Anguish. Firstly, we've got to talk about its main flaw. I'm going to shoot right now, this is a wall test of just another auto rifle. This is a Shadow Price, and I'm just aiming at the wall. I'm not controlling recoil whatsoever, so I'm just aiming at the wall and pressing shoot. I'm not pressing the thumbstick whatsoever. And you can see it has a, a decent recoil pattern. And now I'm going to switch over to the Anguish of Driston. Shoot the wall, again, not controlling recoil, and oh my god. Quite frankly, some of you, I think, are watching this video saying, well, I mean, you could end now, right? Like, do you need to keep going? But yes, I do, because the weapon gets worse. So, we can clearly see terrible recoil pattern. Just terrible. And recoil is a purely negative thing. Like, recoil isn't good. You want guns with the least amount of recoil. Now, for some reason, people think that being able to, quote-unquote, handle recoil makes you good at the game. Well, I guess it kind of does, but it doesn't mean that you should look for guns with high recoil. The Hawksaw didn't just become good randomly. The Hawksaw is good because it's a bloody laser beam, as are most guns in Destiny that are good. You want guns with the least recoil possible for their benefits. And that's also how a lot of guns in Destiny are balanced, recoil versus how good of a gun they are. For example, the Bad Juju is a fully automatic pulse rifle that does a lot of good stuff, and therefore it has a little bit more recoil than, again, something like the Hawksaw. So we've got to look at the Anguish's terrible recoil when compared to its, quote-unquote benefits and ask, is it worth it? Well, considering this video is called The Worst Gun in Destiny, I think the answer you guys know is going to be no, but I see that type of comment a lot. Anytime I mention that the Anguish is bad, I see countless people saying, you just don't know how to use it. You don't know how to control recoil. I had someone say that you don't know how to burst fire auto rifles. Burst fire auto rifles in Destiny, like this is Battlefield. Yes. So, I'm going to ask one question to you guys that should pretty much destroy all these arguments. Why would I want to control the recoil? Why would I go through the trouble of using a gun with terrible recoil? What are the benefits? Well, let's go over them. Does the Anguish of Driston do any more damage than normal? Nope, it does the exact same damage as all of the other high damaging auto rifles. So the Shadow Price, the Zero Day Dilemma, etc., it does the exact same amount of damage. Does it have an insane range stat? Because if it's banging people from forever away for full damage, I mean, it would be worth getting used to the recoil. No. In fact, it has one of the worst range stats for that damage archetype. So it doesn't do any more damage and has really actually terrible range. What about reload? Does it reload really fast? No. Magazine size? Does it have like a 50 round magazine size? No. So there we can kind of start seeing my point here. This gun has terrible recoil. And despite the fan club that says I need to learn how to control the recoil, there is absolutely no reason to learn how to control this gun's recoil, to go and get used to this terrible recoil, because the benefits are literally nothing. It doesn't do more damage, it doesn't have good range, it doesn't have a good reload, it doesn't have a good magazine size, it doesn't have good handling capabilities, it doesn't have good perks. The best perk it does have is a Cocoon perk, which quite frankly is not even that good on primaries. Like, honestly, it's not that good on primaries. You want it on secondaries so you can take out your sniper, shoot guys, and then just go back to your primary. And so, yeah, the best perk it has isn't even that amazing. The best perk it should have is Brace Frame. Brace Frame is a legitimately good auto rifle perk. But on the Anguish, like, it feels like it does nothing. This gun literally feels glitched when you use with or without Brace Frame. However, although the legendary version, as we just went over, has basically no benefits, the exotic version has come out more recently with the Age of Triumph, and then it does clearly have a benefit. Like, yes, I'm a cynical asshole, but at least I'm honest, and I can say that yes, having a weapon with Arc Burn, if that is your only Arc primary weapon, it probably would be worth using in an Arc Burn Strike playlist or even a Nightfall, because having an Arc primary in an Arc Burn playlist is very, very good. But as soon as you get one other Arc primary weapon, that Anguish is going in the vault and is never coming out. If this weapon was Void, it would be legitimately a better weapon. But no, it had to be Arc, which is the most competitive elemental primary damage, because there's more Arc elemental primaries than any of the other different elements. Void, again, doesn't have that much competition. It would be competing with stuff like the Word of Crota and the Doom of Chelchis, which are okay but not fantastic, but it's Arc. So it's competing with the Fatebringer. Last time I checked, the Fatebringer was a pretty good gun. And again, that's directly competing with it. It's also competing with just another auto rifle, the Zalo Supercell. And the Zalo Supercell is just a normal exotic. You don't need to do a raid to get the Zalo. You just need to pop a 3 of coins and get lucky, or wait till Xur sells it. So it's a lot easier to get than having to do a raid and a weekly featured raid and do the challenge mode of the weekly featured raid, right? It's just easier to get the Zalo. And by the way, the Zalo has a better recoil pattern, just better overall, frankly, in terms of range and damage output and all that stuff. And oh, did I mention it also has an exotic perk that chains lightning between enemies, so it damages multiple enemies at the same time. Oh, and also it increases your super when you get double kills. So the Anguish has none of that, really. Absolutely nothing even close to as good as that. So yeah, the competition in the Arc primary weapon categories is pretty severe, and the Anguish isn't looking great when compared to those other guns. So at the end of the day, why is the Anguish so bad? Why is it the worst gun in Destiny? Well, it's hard to get, and quite frankly, it just has no benefits. Even if this gun, let's forget the recoil for a sec. Let's pretend it does, let's say, average recoil for an auto rifle. Like, not an absolute laser beam, that would actually make it, probably on the better side of the coin, but just average recoil. It doesn't do anything special, aside from that Cocoon perk, which again is actually pretty average. Just compare it to some of the other raid weapons in the game. Compare it to another raid auto rifle, the Genesis Chain. How much better is the Genesis Chain? It has an incredibly unique perk, Focus Firefly. In fact, Focus Firefly is so good that it's one of the best and most used PvE weapons in the game because you're just spreading around your damage so much. The weapon is so good on its own that even though Focus Firefly, its unique perk, is pretty much meant for PvE, it has one of the highest usage rates in PvP because it's just such a good gun overall. Great range, easy to use, heavy hitting weapon. It's just a fantastic gun overall. Even looking at some of the other King's Fall weapons, this Smite of Moraine pulse rifle. That pulse rifle can spawn with, as a legendary version, Firefly, which no other pulse rifle can spawn with. So it's got a cool, unique advantage over other pulse rifles. The Anguish, it just doesn't have anything. And so, the worst weapon in Destiny, in my opinion, is the Anguish of Driston. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, found it funny, I guess, entertaining. If you did, please remember to help it out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny and Destiny 2 content, be sure to slap that subscribe button. Now, if you guys want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCactus. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.